Happy Monday, or whatever day you're tuning in. You're listening to the Hello Hair Pro podcast. Jen and I sat down with Tyler Sullivan of Sullivan Beauty. Our conversation lasted well over 2 hours. We got lots of good stuff. So rather than edit it way down, I've decided to break it up into 2 parts. We start off our conversation with some history to set the scene before diving into some really interesting stuff. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's dive in. All right, here we are. We're recording.
Let's
Awesome.
do this.
So we are here today with Tyler Sullivan. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Hi, guys. Tyler Sullivan, Sullivan Beauty, co-owner, co-founder, director of business development is my official title. And been in the game for close to 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. 3rd generation beauty supply distributor.
Cool.
Family owned business, Sullivan Beauty. And I work with my siblings and business partners. And there's a little bit about me professionally.
Very cool. And what about a little bit of the history of Sullivan? I think people will enjoy. I really enjoy this. So
the history runs deep. I'll try and give you an abbreviated version.
Sure. Yeah.
It's pretty cool, actually. So my grandfather, Charles Bernard Sullivan, a.k.a. CB, was a barber distributor. 1945, he and my meme, Claire the bear, started CB Sullivan Company. And it was a small little barber distributorship based out of their basement of their home in Manchester, New Hampshire.
That's cool.
Yep. And he was, he'd go out route sales. He'd be in his van and he would be selling talc and barbicide and shears, and he would sharpen shears and, barber supplies. And he would go out for a couple days at a time throughout northern New England. And he would come back, and my meme, Claire, would manage the inventory and the 5 children she were growing. Yeah. So that was busy for them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. She was a powerhouse, which is why we dub her Claire the Bear, because she was also like finance, collecting payments, managing books, managing inventory. She was a powerhouse woman. And so, that was 1945. And then of the 5 children, my dad, CB Jr., was the eldest. And in 1980, he bought the business from his parents. Mm-hmm. And at that time, he basically started up what became the CB Sullivan Company that New England came to know.
Yes.
And CB Sullivan Company grew to be the largest independent beauty supply distributor on the East Coast of the U.S. Over 30 years. From 1980 to 2010 is when they sold the company to Salon Centric. And in that time, they built it from the parents' basement up to 32 professional stores throughout New England. There were 300 employees. I think we had about 60 professional brands, and pretty much the game in town in New England, which is really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
CB Sullivan.
CBs. A lot of people still call many of the salon-centric stores in New England CBs.
I love it.
Yeah.
I heard that when I was in barber school.
Yeah.
A few times.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool legacy to be a part of. And myself and my siblings had worked there growing up, summer breaks and vacations and such. So we got integrated at an early age, breaking down stuff in the warehouse and sweeping up and cleaning up and working in the stores and working with our teams and marketing, et cetera. And in 2010, we sold CBs to Salon Centric, and we had the opportunity to keep one of our brands and start a independent distributorship with our father, CB. And we exclusively represented that brand for about 5 years. We had to sign a contract with Salon Centric that said we could only represent that brand for 5 years. And then after that,
Meaning you could only, after the 5 years, you had to give that brand up, or that you could only have that one brand?
For the 5 years, we could only have that one brand.
Okay, gotcha.
How did you pick the one brand, or did you?
It was kind of chosen for us because really The brand was John Paul Mitchell Systems. Yeah. And this is a brand that kind of brought us to the dance way back in the day. My dad and John Paul DeJoria and Paul Mitchell, his business partner, were really good friends. And my dad got to introduce it to Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, right? So this was one of the brands that we grew with. And, Paul Mitchell is a brand that doesn't necessarily agree with other brands selling product over the counter, OTC.
Yeah.
And many of the professional brands out there also have their OTC brands.
Okay.
Right. So when Paul Mitchell heard that, L'Oreal's distribution arm called Salon Centric was going to be making acquisitions of distributors in the beauty industry, they were uncomfortable with the idea that, one of their competitors would be controlling the distributor that was selling their brand.
Okay.
And so at the time, we had the ability to kind of hold on to the Paul Mitchell brand, build a distributorship around that exclusively, and or give up the rights for Paul Mitchell. So when we sold to Salon Centric, our father pulled us aside and said, hey, do you guys want to stay in the industry? And if so, we have this great opportunity with John Paul Mitchell Systems to start up an exclusive distributorship with them and stay involved. And this was something that, we were very familiar with, and we knew the brand and we knew distribution. So we decided to go in that direction, but it would mean that we would only represent them for the next 5 years.
Which is crazy to think of only one brand in your wheelhouse, right? That's like unheard of.
Yeah, it was 6% of our overall business that we were doing. So it was a really small share. And at the time prior to that, for instance, I was in Boston managing a sales team of 13 people. And we only had Paul Mitchell in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So we went from all of New England to downsizing to 3 states.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did that, and it was great, to be able to really sink your teeth into one brand and deeply get integrated into it, understand their programs, their systems. And we had a great time doing that. And it really came to the point where our saturation with Paul Mitchell in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont was so strong that we need to diversify. And in order to do that, we diversified into the South, Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut.
Okay.
We brought on brands like Evo and Unite and Living Proof, et cetera. So that's been our trajectory.
And you were able to do that 5 years after, right? Because that's where the contract switched. Okay,
exactly. Cool. Yeah, we were able to do it in 15, but we actually did it in 17.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we decided to kind of build our plan around it and be strategic about it.
Awesome.
Yep.
How was the culture fit? So you have this one brand that you're sort of allowed to work with, and you just have to luck out that it's a fit. Can you talk about that at all?
Absolutely, because that's a lot of what we're about these days, is trying to align with brands that have the same philosophy as us. Whether that be supporting hairstylists, or whether that be doing, the correct things in their business practices, or whether that be sustainable products, these types of things, right? And so John Paul Mitchell Systems is a brand that we could really stand behind, and we still do, because it's independently owned. The leadership there is amazing. They really care about the independent hairdresser. They're super robust with their support. They fight diversion, even though it's, one of the most popular brands out there that's very well diverted. To the point where, a lot of people don't know about this, but like if our products show up in a Rite Aid and it goes back to their diversion department and it's they scan the barcode and it came through Sullivan Beauty, we have to buy that back for $100 a bottle.
Wow.
Right. So, these are policies that they put in place
to really help keep it where they want it to be, how they want the flow to be.
To minimize diversion.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Ish, depending on which side you sit on.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully no one's taking your products and putting them over there. I mean, that's what you're trying to avoid. So
that's right. But yeah, John Paul Mitchell Systems is a really cool brand to support and be a part of. So it aligned with our culture well. I mean, we were able to grow the brand tremendously. We like what they're about. They stand behind their products. They've had offers to be purchased by other brands. They're not interested in doing that for the fear that they might go over the counter with the products. And so, yeah, it's been a great product to represent for many years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Jen and I were talking about this, I think last night. when we met Tyler, it was the first Monday that our podcast, it was episode 1.
Yeah.
And we met you in one of the cooler places that I think, I'm always trying to think of reasons to get back there, but the think tank in Hooksett. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
What's a think tank for people that haven't had the pleasure?
Sure. The think tank is like a creative marketing space. It's a communal space that we have at our Sullivan Beauty headquarters. Our headquarters are in Hooksett, New Hampshire, because it's centrally located for all of New England. We can overnight ship to any of our clients in southwestern Connecticut, northeastern Maine. But in that facility, we bought that building 2019. It's 22,000 square feet. We set up this think tank, which is like probably 3,000 square feet. And it's just like this communal space where we bring in marketing associates and we have team meetings and we have dry erase boards all over the walls, dry erase wallpaper.
It's cool.
Yeah. And it's got a vibe, you know.
It does.
It's my sort of place.
Yeah.
I would whiteboard the entire earth if I could. Because when you have an idea and you could just write it on the wall and come back later.
Yeah.
And Oliver liked it too.
He did. He came with us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's set up like a living room, you know, so we have a lot of team meetings up there and we meet with clients like yourselves and do some planning meetings and such. So it's a productive space, the think tank.
Very cool. And that's where we were introduced to Evo.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys...
I saw the swatch book for Huverse and I was like,
right.
what is that?
That was right at the conception of Huverse
it was
color.
like sitting there and I'm like putting my hands all through whatever I was allowed to touch.
Yeah.
I
And
feel
then taking some home with me.
I feel like there were some things that they're like, you're not supposed to see that yet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
you guys got
give
some
this
sneak
to me.
previews.
It was very
Some
cool.
sneak peeks. Don't post this.
And look here, it was well worth it.
It was perfect. Perfect timing.
Yeah, Jennifer, you've done a very good job as an Evo educator. It's been impressive to watch you. In fact, we just had a class a couple weeks ago, and I got to see you teach in front of a group of probably 30 people.
Yes.
And you were so dialed. It's just very impressive to me to see somebody who can stand in front of a team or a group of people and communicate a message and show them beneficial techniques that's just like in your wheelhouse. It's an art. You do it very well.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Aw. Thanks. I feel loved.
Repping.
She brings the passion and she cares. You know that there's a difference you can tell with people that care, and not just educators, but anybody with anything. You know, when we first met you, we were like, there's a vibe here.
Yeah.
There's more than just, here, let me pair these guys up with some products.
Right.
True. Yeah. And not only passion and care, but also I think when you're an experienced educator, you have awareness of your group and you're able to communicate and you're able to connect with people and you're able to interact with them and ask them questions that are going to be relevant. And, you know, as an experienced educator, you do that very well.
Thanks.
And that I think is what makes a class really dynamic and people feel like they came away with it from with something that they can really benefit from.
Which was my goal.
For sure. Yeah. It's cool to be able to take something too, like that haircut that you showed off. You were like, from the jump, like, you're probably not going to have a lot of people asking for this haircut, but here's why I'm going to show it to you anyways. Because here's what you can take from this and apply to whatever. So connecting the dots for people is, I think, a big part of it too.
Just want everyone to learn and do something with it. Like apply it, you know, like
yeah, don't
That's
just
a big
post
deal.
that you went to a class. Go
I want you to
apply
use
that
it.
to something, right? Do the reps.
And not to segue too far on this topic, but the brand that you're educating with, Evo, you know, they're really great about showing technique, but saying, here's how to apply it at home. It's not about, this is the 4 boxes that you need to stay within. And I think that, you know, you do a good job of showing that and saying, all right, let's figure out how we can conform to make this work in your salon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great because there's many brands that we've represented where it's like, nope, it's black and white. This is how it works.
Yeah, the freedoms within it, and allowing as an educator to bring your own spin to it is why it works for me, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So your specific role, Tyler, with the company is director of
Business development.
Okay, that's what I had in my
just
notes. But I was
sounds cool.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I came up with it.
Nice job.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm going to give myself a title.
Wait, I need a director title. Director of podcasts.
Well, really what it is it's a very all-encompassing type of a title. business development, right? I mean, that's what we're in. We're trying to develop salons. We're trying to develop our line card. We're trying to develop our systems, our people, our culture. And so I have a hand in kind of each of those elements of the company. And, to try and specify what exactly I do, or really my brother, my sister, even our key management, we all wear many hats. And that role, Director of Business Development, encompasses a lot of what I do.
Very cool. So education is big with you guys. Another space that you have created is that, do you have a name for it?
Yeah, the Learning Center.
The Learning Center is, I was like, education space. That's what I have in my notes, but it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
For people that haven't been there, it's impressive. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
And if not, would you anyways?
Or I will, because it is really cool.
Well, what do you like about it, Jen?
So I like when you walk in, it's just so open. The windows, just the vibe of the place. I feel like it's not a specific setup for creativity and you can do so much with it. So when you walk in, it just is, thank you. It gives a feel to, I guess, whatever you're feeling that day is what you're going to take out of it.
Sure.
And that's cool to me. The whole look of it, it just looks awesome.
Good. Yeah.
One of the things I picked up on right away the first time I ever went in there is how it's the aesthetic, but how it draws you in. Mm-hmm. Like the way it's set up in that sort of shotgun style.
Yeah.
And you walk in and you're just drawn to like move into the space.
Sure.
And I don't know if that was thought out or not, but take credit for it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah. And then with the windows, so it just like,
Yeah, it's bright.
It's really neat.
It's
Yeah.
airy. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Lots of
it's a
natural light.
cool spot to take in some things because you don't feel confined, I guess.
Good.
We're recording in our break room right now of our salon, so it's a little confined,
yeah.
but
It's not bad. The Learning Center really was part of the building in terms of the space that we moved into. So it's this long, like 2,200 square foot room that can facilitate about 100 people. We have a stage in there. We have surround sound, big 80-inch TV, mirrors on the walls, large windows, lots of natural light, kitchenette in the back so we can, host an event, serve coffee or have beverages, this type of a thing. There's a wash sink in there. And then behind the stage, we have multiple hairstyling stations where artists can prep hair, et cetera, while somebody else is presenting on stage. And education is a big part of what we do at Sullivan Beauty. It's a key element to help support salons to professionally grow. And we have a very robust education calendar that we ourselves are trying to keep up with on the regular. So yeah, it was a core function of our space that we knew we were going to have to build out, and it just worked out in that area. So it wasn't really set up to be super engaging or, knowing that we were going to want the natural light so people can really be in a learning environment that is conducive for them to learn, but rather this is the space that we're going to dedicate to our learning center. And we use it about every Monday. This season we've been using it on Sundays and Mondays. And it's been a great functional space for us, and it's attached to our professional store.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Side benefit.
Right. So when folks are inspired or they want to try something new or a tool maybe that they saw an educator use, they can go downstairs and pick one up on their way out, which is great. Exit through the gift shop.
Yes, I love that.
So you talked a little bit about your role with the company. As far as your brother and your sister, I assume everyone has a different role that they head up, but could you talk, just because I find it interesting and I think some of the listeners might, can you talk about the dynamic a little bit? Do you guys sort of come together on things or stay to your lanes, for lack of a better term, or how does that work?
Yeah. So we all have independent roles, right? So my brother Kerry is the director of sales. He's also the president of our company. My sister Lauren is the director of client experience. She's also in sales management. And I'm obviously director of business development, but we do tend to stay in our own lanes. We all have a lot on our plate that we focus on, but there are many topics that we have to collaborate on. Good example right now is my sister Lauren is out having her Well, she just had her second child, and
Yay.
yeah. So that's really cool. So she's on maternity
Congratulations.
leave. Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's got this cute little redheaded brood because her husband Mike is a redhead. So
Oh,
That's
so
awesome.
cute.
it's so fun. So anyways, Liam and Isla and Lauren's out with them, and normally she would be the one onboarding Sullivan Beauty consultants, training them, getting them up to speed, this type of a thing. Kerry, myself, our sales manager, Les Dangler, who also helps out with Lauren, are all taking on those responsibilities. So for the next couple of weeks, we'll be on the road detailing with them, visiting salons. We've been training them. And this is an example of how we all collaborate on, something that Lauren would normally be doing.
Cool.
Yeah. And then when it comes to like corporate direction, when it comes to us choosing if we want to align with a brand, I mean, these are all big topics that we all have to discuss on the regular. So
That makes sense.
there's a lot of communication, but we do all kind of focus on our own lanes, if you will. Yeah.
I'm always interested in dynamics of, especially with, so my business partner is my wife.
Yep.
So that's different than, what a sibling might look like, or a friend or someone you just met,
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I imagine that there's a lot of crossover between husband-wife type partnerships and sibling partnerships. When you're not married or related to your business partners, it's very kind of black and white. You respect each other professionally. There's certain ways you communicate, and there's certain things you can't do. I think when you're related or married, there's blurred lines there, right? So
Yes.
that's been an art and something we have to work at. We're 11 years old now at Sullivan Beauty, and that's something that we've really had to learn about and understand our strengths and our weaknesses and communication and really respect for each other, more so than how you might, beat up on your little brother or sister type thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, from your viewpoint or opinion, what is a distributor's role in the industry? I know that it's more than just aligning businesses with products.
Yep. It's a great question. Overall, we have some core competencies that we're responsible for, right? So we distribute products to salons. We make sure that they have their supplies that they need in a timely manner. And within that, there's a variety of things that need to be right. Number one, you have to have your inventory levels correct. You need to be able to pick, pack, and ship accurately, expediently, affordably. You need to have the right systems in place to maintain all of the needs to supply that inventory, whether it be financials, whether it be collection of money. There's, it's a pretty complicated business model, the beauty supply distributor, but that's just really one of the core competencies. Our mission is to help beauty professionals grow. So that's where you start to dig in deeper. Like, what is our role there? How do we help our clients to succeed? And that might be through education. That might be through sales plans. That might be through training. That might be through getting people to come into your salon. That might be through marketing efforts. I mean, there's so many different things that we try and do to help our clients grow. And that's really the area that we dig deeper into, right? So we have our core competencies, but the goal is to help our clients grow. And those are the functions that we really need to train our people on and dig deep in to let clients know how we can help them grow.
I think you guys do that really well. And I'll speak from our experience. When we opened with different brands from Salon Centric, and I specifically picked those brands because I was like, oh, this is sort of where we want Hello to be when we open. And as we started to grow as a new salon and a brand, I realized they weren't things that I aligned with for where I wanted Hello to go. So somehow we got a meeting with your brother, Kerry, and Des came in, and we were looking at Unite was the product line. Something that was just...
It was recommended from someone else.
Recommended. We were looking to go into more clean beauty and that kind of thing. And it was just a direction that I realized really resonated with me. And what was cool, I think it was Kerry that said it right away, like, I have a line that once they get a tour of the place, they were like, wait, why this? And why not Evo? Like, we just got a feel for your space. And like, I think this might be a better route for you. And I mean, he easily could have come in and been like, yep, Unite, cool, let's just sign the deal. Like, didn't matter. But what mattered to Kerry was like helping us align even more. Right. Like, hey, have you heard of this brand? No, I have not. I think whatever day that was, they had sent over a bunch of emails on the product. And the minute I opened it up, I'm like, this is perfect. But he cared in a way that I've never been treated before in any meeting with a distributor, president or whatever his title was, and put us in a whole different trajectory for Hello, which really was perfect. Good. It was perfect for our staff. It was perfect for everything we were trying to do. And I guess the love out of that meeting was just very unique. And it's what started this relationship too, right? So that is very unique for you guys. For me, I mean, I've been in the industry for 23 years and you really helped the business like come together. So it was cool.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, a lot of it is aligning people with what we think might be the best brand to suit your needs. Mm-hmm. And then just kind of figuring out, what your needs are. Right. I think our Sullivan Beauty consultants, truly we call them SBCs consultants because that's a big part of what they do. We're resource directors. I want to find out, for instance, a lot of the things that people come to us for are they need help with social media marketing. They need help with driving new clientele into their salon. They need help with increasing their retail sales. They need help with recruiting new team members. They need help with client retention. These are things that we have systems for, right? And so I think the key element that we try and do is just have a discovery session and keep communication channels open to understand what our clients need. And you kind of create a bespoke program for them. Yeah. This independent stylist is a lot different than, the owners of this larger commission salon and what their needs are. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's what we're about.
Yeah, you do a great job with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that story came up because it was in my mind to try to slide it in there somewhere because it was a cool meeting. And I took the same exact thing that day. I think you had clients and it was sort of booked last minute. So you were in and out a bit. Mm-hmm. And I got to sit there the entire time. We were in the room next door. And your brother Kerry was like, there's nothing wrong with this brand that was recommended to you. Nothing at all. Mm-hmm. But after learning about your mission, your vision, what you're trying to accomplish here, and those sorts of things, I think you might want to look at this. And that might have been the catalyst for like Hello Hair 2.0, mm-hmm. like where we changed directions, but we were already pivoting because we were like, we don't want to be this sort of cookie cutter salon that, no offense, is every other plaza. Yep. There's 2 salons now in every other plaza. So. Yeah.
You guys have done a good job of standing out, by the way.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
And that was important to us part of it is to prove our business model. So we do things a little bit different here. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that plenty on other shows, but part of what we really truly want to do is prove that this can work. And I think aligning with the right brands and the right people just gives you that backing. So we talk about this a lot too, like you're not alone. It's like knowing someone has your back. So if you do fail, you're not alone.
Right.
It's okay to pivot or having that feeling that someone's there to sort of help you if you fall. So
yeah.
Sure.
And
you guys do an awesome job at that.
You're forming a relationship. Like you guys make us feel like we're part of you, like that we matter. Right. And we were coming out of like COVID and stuff. And it was a time where there were no relationships being formed. So like coming into that and feeling like someone was like looking out for our best interest, like I hadn't felt that in a while. And that was just eye-opening and really a magical day for me. I don't know. It's really cool.
Awesome.
Sounds so cheesy, but I'm being honest.
It's ushy-gushy, but it's good stuff because, that's what we strive to achieve, truly. It's about the relationships. It's about understanding what each of your clients needs. And it's about giving them that support. And I feel like, we excel at that. We try and do that. We try and train our people very strongly on those points. And that's one of the things that I think as a distributor, you really need to pay attention to because we have this team of people that are out there representing Sullivan Beauty in the 77-year legacy.
Right.
And, some people do it really well and other people need to better wrap their hands around it. And we try and find Sullivan Beauty consultants that understand the mission and understand how to ask the questions. And it's not just about trying to sell something to people. It's about understanding what their needs are and fulfilling their needs. Yep.
Awesome.
So I just rearranged my questions a little bit because this one will slide in a little
All
easier.
right.
But do you find that most salons understand the partnership, or is that something you have to overcome? Do you have to educate the market? I feel like working with an independent distributor, it just has a much different feel.
Sure.
Than the larger box distributors.
Oh, it definitely does. Yeah. I think we do have to educate the market. No, I don't think the majority of people understand how to properly leverage your distributor. These days the market's fragmented a lot and gone into, the way of independence, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would say in general, the larger, employer salons understand how to use a distributor because they've had to for many years. But now that there's, independents popping off left and right, they might not know how to use a distributor. They might not know the benefit of having a consultant working with you. And a lot of times they're the ones who really need that type of support because they're going out on their own. They're learning about it. They understand what they know from their network, but maybe not necessarily how to do it, right? So I think in general, the bigger salons know how to use a distributor, where some of the newer wave independents may not necessarily know how to leverage us.
Is that something you guys are currently not battling, but sort of strategizing and trying to figure out how can we help, how can we serve these people?
Always.
That's such a tough position to be in too, because we even find it with the podcast and trying to help mentor people that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So they might not have the questions, or they might assume that you're not there to help them. So
exactly. Yeah. It's called unconsciously incompetent, right? And you think about a baby. This is a great lesson that a consultant taught me one time. And it's the 4 stages of consciousness. And when you're a baby, you don't necessarily know that you don't know how to walk. All right. You're unconsciously incompetent. And then all of a sudden that baby becomes a toddler and they see older ones running around and they're like, wait a second, I can walk. They become consciously incompetent. And then they learn how to walk. They're holding on to the couch. They're stumbling a little bit. They're consciously competent. They know how to do it. They know that they're aware of how to do it. But it's not until they become an adult and they're walking around and on the phone and chewing gum and they become unconsciously competent.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I think when people are first getting into business, they're unconsciously incompetent. They don't necessarily know what they don't know. Yeah. So what are those questions, right? And, for instance, if I'm going to use the example of an independent, might have to do with, what type of support systems do I need? Do I need a lawyer? Do I need an accountant? Do I need to understand how to brand my company? Do I need social media help? What's the importance of carrying retail in my salon or going with a full e-commerce type of a situation? These are questions that they might not understand or know that they need to know about. And these are ways that we as consultants will help them kind of grow and put a structure in place for their business.
That's awesome.
Cool.
So as you guys predict growth, I assume that's what you're in business to do eventually, is to grow. And I don't think anybody would fault a business for growing. Well, some people might, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Do you guys have conversations about how to maintain what you're doing at another scale, at a different level? Is that something you guys think about, or is it something that you guys just maybe just are good at doing?
Well, I don't know that we would just innately be good at doing it per se. We'd like to think we are, but
well, I think a lot of people, once you have systems in place and you're just good at, following those systems, and you're like, okay, these work, these are the questions to ask in this situation. When things come up, it's okay, we have something to rely on. So that's what I mean more of, like,
right,
be good at it.
Well, I tell you what, because of our legacy, right, that we're fortunate to be able to rely on, we have really great systems and structure and people in place that were founded at CB Sullivan Company. And so that's been super beneficial coming into owning your own business and having questions and having a support system to rely on. Now that we're 11 years in, over a decade, there's a lot of things that we have to do commonly that's repeat business that we have systems for. But because of the way that the industry is kind of evolving and adapting, we need to always kind of update systems, and we need to come up with new programs. Walking into a booth rental suite and trying to service independents is a totally different game than meeting with the owners of a large salon and having one contact there that's going to affect 10, 15 people. And so that's an example of how you have to adapt as a distributor to understand like what the needs are. I think what we're great about doing at Sullivan Beauty is we're kind of a younger team of distributor principals. I'm the eldest of like our executive team, and I'm 44. And so I am working with my brother and sister who are also very intuitive and very much about consumer experience and shopping on phones and understanding like what today's hairdresser is in need of to develop systems to help facilitate what their needs are. And so I feel like we continue to adapt. We always meet and talk about, what the direction is for the industry. And we try and provide systems that are going to, help our clients and also us to do our jobs appropriately. So yeah, there's an element of us having plenty of systems in place that are going to continue to be used, but we always have to adapt to grow with the industry trends. If that makes sense.
Love that.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Is there sort of a point that you hit where, and this is sort of just off the top of my head, but is there a point you hit in your business where you might be just growing so much that you have to adjust sort of the feel? Like, so right now, like I know, I can text you.
Right.
At what point is it like, Todd, you know what I mean? And
That's a good question. We are at a point right now where we are focusing on refining systems and team to facilitate the growth that we've had. All right. So for instance, we're here in 2023, 2022, we brought on 8 new brands into our portfolio, and each brand served a specific purpose. We've got extensions now, and there's specific niches that we need to address. And that's great. That's well and good. But with the added volume, we needed stronger systems in place, right? So 2023 for us is about tightening up those systems. It's about refining. It's about getting better, because you don't want the client experience to lack because all of a sudden, our distribution center team members are overwhelmed with the amount of orders that we're sending out because of the new brands. And some of the brands have existing clientele that just didn't have, proper distribution in New England. So when we take them on, you're also onboarding 500 or 1,000 new existing clients that are like placing orders regularly, and boom, you scale it pretty dramatically. And so I hope I will always be in a position where people can text me 24/7, which is kind of how I roll. And I'll have pretty good response time. But I do start to see like, for instance, with my emails, I'm not on top of the 100 emails that are coming in per day because I'm trying to be productive at the same time. So now I need to put people in place to help me with that, right? So yeah, well, I think we're refining, and this year is a big year for that, where we're trying to tighten up systems to make sure that the client experience doesn't get compromised because of our growth.
Makes sense.
so for the sake of listeners, what would have happened if you didn't scale, if you didn't adjust these systems? Because what we see is a lot of the salons, a lot of the people that we talk to, they haven't changed anything in say 20 years, and they're wondering why they're not growing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we would be stagnant. And we tend to see this, in the distributor side of the industry. You need to evolve, right? And if you don't, you basically get swallowed up, right? And I feel like it's the same way with salons. They say a salon should be updating decor every 7 years, I think it is, to stay relevant. And it's really easy because every year I'm sorry, it's not really easy to evolve. It's really easy to watch as salons kind of grow stagnant because they're not necessarily feeling like they need to adapt at all or change. But every year you've got students graduating, and now you've got this independent model where they're out producing their own salons, and their, social media is their portfolio and this type of a thing. So if you're not staying with color schemes and trends and a lot of what Hello Hair has done in terms of being very flexible in the way that you have your schedules for your people, for instance. These are the types of ways that I think salons need to adapt to stay relevant. And it's easy to get into a system. It's easy to get into a flow, to get complacent.
That's the word I was looking for.
I mean, and you think about being behind the chair, and like, you guys are busy. You guys you have kids, and you're running a salon, and you're educating. You guys are hosting a podcast. I mean, there's a lot going on in your worlds. So it's kind of easy, I think, to get behind the chair and be like, all right, here comes Sally. Here's what we're going to do today. And you're kind of going through that cycle. But really, I think these days, because of the amount of competition that's coming into the market, you really have to be proactive about keeping your eyes peeled as to what's happening and trying to adapt to make sure that you're still as attractive to the clientele that's out there as your competition that's in the market.
All right. At this point, we took a break in the conversation so that we could grab coffee. Tyler walked his dog a little bit and all that fun stuff. So it seemed like a natural place to end part 1. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for part 2, which we'll release next week, where we pick up right where we were. So, as always, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Have a great day.